the deals that need to be done here in the winter window. We're coming up on January. Like I said, it's the holiday season. What gifts are teams going to try to gift themselves to make some improvements in the table? Michael, since I went first on the League Pass, let's have you go first. We'll go back and forth on some of our ideas of what teams need to be doing here.
All right, so I guess the idea of this was somewhat like what you would need, what would be cool, but just kind of what I would want to see. The first one, I want West Ham to deal Maxwell Cornet to Brighton.
You think there's a resurgence there, maybe?
I think he is technically a very good player. I think he has one appearance in the Prem this year, so they're clearly not really using him. I think that Bowen, Antonio, Outlet is just always going to be there, and they don't really have a need for another guy unless one of those guys get hurt, obviously. But then they also have like Ben Rama and stuff like that who can play that role. I just don't think he is needed. And I think the way that Brighton rotate, and I think Matoma's still injured right now, another left winger, another guy who can play on the wing for them, who's incredibly talented, I'm sure could fit in really well. I have always liked him. I even liked him when he was at Burnley. He kind of made a little bit of an impact there. Thought he was going to get a chance at West Ham. Obviously hasn't happened. I want him to go to Brighton because I think it would be good for him, and I think it would be good for Brighton. And I don't think West Ham need him. Make some money.
Damn, I went about this assignment the other way. I went top down. Now you're going not bottom up, I guess, per se, but you're kind of going
lateral.
Yeah, you're going middle out, I guess. Middle out. Because now I'm thinking like, if I'm Bournemouth or if I'm Nottingham Forest, who gets Jadon Sancho? That's like my mindset should have been on that, and I didn't think about it. And now your eyes lit up, so maybe you got to move there. So we'll have you do that. That's fine. My number one that I thought of, Dylan's going to hate me, Nick's going to love me. I got Pedro Neto going to United. I think it'd be the smartest buy that United have had in a long-ass time. And they don't score up front. They need someone who can actually create. I think the combination of Neto and Bruno combining midfield out, midfield to the wing, et cetera, he's had a great season. I don't want to see it, but I think like if you're running the books and running a team at United, you know this guy's good. And dude, he's only 23. I didn't realize that. Like I'm looking at this again, I'm like, he's only 23. I got a feeling his next move is out of the Premier League, to be honest with you. Like some big ass team, but not to say United's not a big ass team, right? But I think it made sense. I don't think Wolves will sell him, but I think it makes sense.
I think Wolves might have to sell him, potentially. I think like I kind of agree. I think like weirdly like a Atletico or a Barcelona or
Madrid,
something like that will come for him for sure. I think Madrid have Rodrigo, and I think he's doing pretty much okay, and they still want Mbappe on that side. But in terms of filling a position, I mean, the right wing, right mid spot at United is literally just a dumpster fire. So
yeah, I thought it made sense.
All right, I got. I'll just do this one since I already kind of gave it away. Jadon Sancho, great player at Dortmund. Pretty crazy that like at that time it was like Bellingham, Sancho, Haaland, and United picked Sancho like the worst one. I mean, not bad, but like the worst one of the three.
Yeah.
I want him to go to Spurs. I think under Ange, he would be way, way better. He would be less restrictive. He could kind of play the same way, same like progressive football like they would at Dortmund. A lot of like freedom, like I said. I just think at United, obviously it's so far done now just because of everything else. But even when he was still in the running to play, he has to play such a specific way, specific role. He's taking up a position where they have a guy who is like, Rashford is the guy there for, last year especially, maybe not so much this year, but he's always going to be the left side guy. I think him on that left side Son, if he's going to keep playing through the middle, I think he's better than Richarlison. I think it would be really interesting to see him there.
With Kulusevski, too.
So Kulusevski on the right, Madison in the middle, Sancho on the left, and then Son through the middle. It's on striker, obviously.
I really, again, I'm putting rivalries aside. I don't want to see Jadon Sancho become the next Dele Alli. I think that would suck. Which
and I think this is the only iteration of Spurs in the past 15 years. Jesus Christ, that was almost crazy. The past 5 or 6 years that he could survive in, because Mourinho, it would be kind of the same. Conte would be kind of the same. I think Ange, mostly because of Ange, I think he would be successful there.
I feel like they can get him on a cheap too. May even be a loan. It may be one of those scenarios where if you get him for a loan for the rest of the year and he actually kind of shows out, then United can sell him on next year, maybe back to Dortmund. Who knows?
The contract would be the problem.
So, you mentioned Arsenal earlier, and I know they're winning 4-0 right now as we record, but the goals have not been coming as plentiful as you would think for a team that's as good as they are.
5-0.
5-0 now, live
5-0.
on pod. So they haven't been coming as much as you think in the Premier League, and I do think that there is a striker out there that may have had a lot of hopes and dreams riding on him early in his career at a big team, and then had to go some other place to really learn how to be an all-around good striker. And I think that if you add someone up top for Arsenal, you're giving them another option. I love Gabby Jesus, but I kind of think that it's not over, but I still want him to go to Ligue 1 and lead the league in scoring, because I told you he'd do that 5 years ago, and I think he still could. Dom Solanke to Arsenal.
So the thing is, there's such an obvious pick for Arsenal at striker, and it's just Tony.
Ivan Toney, yeah.
Yeah. So let's assume that can't happen. I don't hate it. Yeah, okay. I don't hate Solanke then to Arsenal. I think he's big. I think he can play the hold up a little bit better, especially if you're gonna have possession. He's been at two. Didn't play, but he's been at two big clubs before. I'm pretty sure Chelsea and Liverpool. I think Chelsea, but I obviously know Liverpool.
He is. Yep.
I don't think it would bother him too much. I think he's pretty used to the pressure, used to leading the line. The only thing is obviously you'd get him pretty cheap comparatively, and there's just a bigger downside, I think. If he doesn't work out, then you're just stuck with three guys that kind of are B+.
Yeah, there's the risk on all these for that, but I like the fact that he's been the most successful at a club that has put a lot on him, but it's not like the people around him are that good. Now, if you get him on a front line where then he plays to Saka or Martinelli or Trossard, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, I just think now he's ready. When he was at Chelsea, he only played one game at Chelsea. Then he went to Liverpool, and that was the thing that I was thinking the most of all right, he actually got a little bit of a shot and just wasn't ready. Just wasn't ready for it. Again, he's only 26, which is, I feel like Dom Solanke's been in my life for 12 years. I don't know about you, but only 26. I think it's a decent call. Again, downside's always going to be there for transfers, but it's a little bit of a cheaper option to do that.
I think probably the issue is Nketiah is not a very good finisher, or obviously it's fine, but not the best. And Jesus is a very good finisher, but he never plays. He always gets hurt, and obviously availability is important. I think Solanke does not get hurt that often, and he's a better finisher than Nketiah. So I think overall it would be at least better than Nketiah in that case. I just think ambitions-wise, Arsenal are going to go for Osimhen or Toney or somebody.
Yeah, the other thing I'll say too is there's no guarantee that he'd be able to fit the Arteta system of what a striker needs to do all the time. I do think that there is a ton of movement that Jesus does, much like Pep, where it's there's times where they don't really even play with a striker. It's literally having just a higher up attacking mid that's passing, pinging, and moving. And like Slanky's never had to do that. He's on the back line.
For sure. All right, I'll stick with the cherries with this one. I think he was great last year. I think he is an exciting left wing back attacking player. He has I'm pretty sure it's his brother, plays for Rangers in Scotland. Marcus Tavernier to Villa. Because I think Lucas Digne, he's been playing that progressive role, and he hasn't been having to defend a ton because they got those three center backs back there, holding it down. I think Digne is a little bit overrated. I used to really like him. I used to think he was like one of the better wingbacks. I think he gets hurt fairly often too, more on the back end. I think Marcus Tavernier, if you just let him go up that left wing, he would be unbelievable for a team that, especially a transition team and a team. I think he could play in possession too and whip crosses in for you.
Yeah, I don't hate it. I was also on the Digne train back in the day. I feel like we would play. He was at Everton before. Who else was he at? Villa, do I want to say?
Well, he's at Villa now, isn't he?
No, I'm trying to think of. He was at one other team. Anyway,
I sure hope he's at Villa.
I think that every time City would play him, he would have an assist or something. Or like if they'd give up a goal, he'd be the guy like on the end of that. So I used to be big on Digne as well. I like the pick. It's funny that we can sit there again. You mentioned Bournemouth is like in your top 3 of the teams you like watching outside of Liverpool. They do have some pieces. They just haven't come together
sure.
as well as they thought this year. All right, my last pick. It's a homer pick. It's a City pick. We need a defensive mid. We're getting rid of Kalvin Phillips. I like Kalvin Phillips, but he just didn't work out. There's 2 options. One, you figure out what the hell's going on with Paqueta, and you bring him in. Paquita. However you say it. I still can't believe that's how you pronounce it. But the better option, which I don't think you're going to be able to get now, because he used to play for us. What happened? How did we get rid of Douglas Luiz?
He played for you guys?
He was in our system for so long, and then we sold him.
Bro.
He was on loan to Girona, and then we finally sold him to Villa in 2019. But he's only 25. Paqueta's 26. These are all still pretty young guys. I got 4 or 5 more years left. That DM position is just so hard to fill. It's so hard to get anyone to back up Rodri. I know with both these guys, too, you have the flexibility that they can play those other positions. So they're going to get playing time regardless.
He would be moving forward. He'd actually be more of a Gundogan clone than a Rodri clone because he gets forward a lot and can score.
That's probably true. My thought process is
scary.
My thought process is the best version of City is being able to give Rodri some time off. And again, I brought this up in a prior pod. Or I brought this up when I was talking to my buddy Spencer here for the New York City fan community. The Champions League final against Chelsea, Rodri was an unused substitute, which is insane to think and believe now because he's just so vital to this team. So anytime that you have someone that can actually back him up and give him some time off, I think that's just kudos for City. So that's where they need to be looking.
I also just want to say I'm pretty sure Arsenal, Liverpool, Man City, Spurs probably, any team in the top 6, well, Villa's literally 4. Any team other than Villa in the top 6 would literally love to have Douglas Luiz. Bite your hand off to have Douglas Luiz.
And this is the thing, too. I do think that scouting department at Villa is good enough that they flipped Grealish for a lot of these dudes. Not Douglas Luiz, who's there in 2019, but they flipped him for a lot of these guys they got now. I think they're pretty confident that they're going to get 100-some-odd million for him, and they're going to be able to flip that 100-some-odd million to get 4 other prospects again. So, City.
Give me 4 John McGinns.
Exactly. You love John McGinn. You love a John McGinn.
He's a
all right. Those are our transfers. I'm sure we'll talk about this more as December rolls on, which we're a day and a half away from December now.
Yes.